clap. There you go. Sound speed. And we're rolling.
Yes, we are live. Welcome to another episode of Webbing the Surf. Today, I am super pumped to have Ivor Conric. How do you really say it?
Conric.
Conric.
That was
in
excellent.
The house.
Excellent, Chase.
Thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
All right, so we're doing handheld because it's Semana Santa here in Mexico. Webbing the Surf is brought to you from Salida Cowork here in Salida, Mexico. Brought to you by Customer Bloom, who can grow your business faster. And it happens to be the biggest party of the year.
The biggest holiday.
So
it's all happening.
You're gonna hear some banda music kick in a minute, I'm sure. Ivor, we're working on another co-working office in Puerto Vallarta.
Mm-hmm.
So we've been looking at co-working spaces around the world for ideas.
Yeah.
Somebody sent me a link to Hubud. How do you say it?
Hubud.
Hubud.
Yes.
And then literally the next week you were here.
That's right.
And so you have history at Hubud, right?
I do. So Hubud is a co-working space in Bali. It's actually just in the center of Bali in a town called Ubud. That's how it's got its name. It's a hub in Ubud.
Makes sense.
Hubud. Check it out.
I was like, why would they pick this name? It's impossible.
Yeah,
to
no,
say.
it is, and I mean, people get tricked up all the time. It started 3 years ago, and by a couple of Canadian guys, and I was living in Bali for by that time I think just over a year. I met the guys, kept running into them, and they told me about this thing they were doing. It sounded really interesting. I'd never heard of co-working before. And long and short of it, I ended up coming in and helping out and then managing the place for just over a year.
Nice.
And
where are you from originally?
Well, I'm originally from Croatia, hence the bizarre name. But I've pretty much spent, as I'm sure you can hear, most of my life in Australia. So
that's a learned accent.
It's a learned accent, yes.
Wow.
It's adapted. And I think that what's happened is the last 4 or 5 years I've been hanging around international people, Americans, Canadians, Europeans. So the Australian is kind of, it's been mixed up a little bit. So who knows? I mean, I could be anything. It's just an enigma. But look, it was a really exciting time. It, introduced me into this whole new world of work, which I didn't know existed. I mean, I was
Were you nomading while you were there? Is that what took you there?
No, it wasn't. It was quite the opposite. I was, working in Sydney, working really hard. I was doing mainly logistics and operations and running a big event company at the time, and that actually folded, and then went traveling, came into Bali on the way back to Australia just for a month to see friends and family, and ended up staying for 3 years. Never made it back. So I got close. So I wasn't, and I was just randomly doing, some gigs there on the island, and then this came along. So my mindset was very much still, you work in a traditional job, you go to an office, you check in, you check out, that kind of thing.
And what is it now?
Well, I think now it's pretty much, for me personally or just generally?
No, for you,
for me personally,
left.
I did,
You're
yeah.
You're not working for Hubud.
No, I'm not
right?
anymore. Right. So, I mean, what happened was that I was introduced to this whole concept and literally the people living remote lives. So people that were, location independent. And I guess it's kind of you take the blue pill, and once you've seen what's possible, and in my case it was a kind of extreme education, because it wasn't that I kind of read about it online. I met hundreds of people that were doing it, and doing it across a whole wide range of skills and jobs and things like that. So the kind of, in startup terms, you have ideas like proof of concept, and that was definitely in your face. Like, this is real, it's happening. Here are 10, 20,000 guys that are doing it.
Yeah.
So, very quickly I realized that this was possible. And I think in anything in life, once you actually change a belief system, you actually start living the new kind of paradigm, and there's no going back. You can't erase that, and then you've kind of seen through the crack and go, oh, that looks nice. And it's been exciting. So since that time, it's been coming up to a year now.
Okay.
And
since you left?
Since I left. And that's been a time where initially I kind of started seeing how I could take my skill set and really adapt it to something that I could do remotely, because my partner is a writer, and she'd been doing that for a couple of years, and her work was already location dependent. So we wanted to kind of travel, be more mobile, so I was really the one dragging the chain and stopping that from happening. So very quickly I was adapted, and since then it's been great.
Well, how did you figure that out? Because I think a lot of people that are going to be watching this show are sitting there going, shit, this sounds amazing. Okay,
yes.
How do I take my skill set and make it remotable?
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the biggest challenge out there. Personally, I think I was a little bit luckier in the sense that I was exposed to a lot of people that were already doing it, and I had already met and created quite a large network, so I could really tap into that, and also had a few mentors that really helped. I think mentors are definitely the way to go. Finding people that are doing or have done what you are thinking of doing. Everyone's always willing to kind of reach out and give their advice and their opinions if you ask them. I also took it a little step further, actually, and had made an acquaintance with someone who was a business coach that focused on transitioning people from a traditional 9-to-5 into developing kind of their dream passion job.
Oh, interesting.
So that
was it good? I feel like so many of those are like...
No, this is amazing. I mean, there are a lot of like business coaches out there, and I kind of do that myself now, consulting wise, but this is really focused on, identifying what your core skills are and what you're good at, and then packaging that up. I think that's quite critical. The course is actually screwthecubicle.com. Well, that's the company, so you should check that out.
Nice.
But it's a cool name. The girl that runs that, Lydia Lee, she's a real powerhouse. She's been doing that for a long time, and she's developed all these different kinds of courses. It's a really structured way, and I think that for someone like me, I'm very analytical, so I really appreciated having a real structure and a process of steps. This is what you do first, so it's not just overwhelmed, what do I do now?
Write your dream on this piece of paper and
exactly,
go get it.
And then go get it. I mean, but having said that, also because of the sheer growth in the awareness of being location independent, and the amount of blogs and the amount of information that's out there, you can actually read up quite a lot about it, and get quite clued up on what industries or what skills are very remotable, and then potentially you can even upskill yourself as well into something you've always considered doing and never thought you could.
Let me ask you a question that I didn't ask in the last episode, and I should have, because after Brandon and I were talking about it, and it was like, why didn't I ask you this? You've been doing on your own about a year, trying to make your skill set work remotely. How is it actually going?
Yeah, it's going really well. What I realized, and in the process of actually transitioning, when you look back at not the types of jobs that you've done, but what are the actual skills that you've brought to that job. And I realized that I had spent a decade working in a wide range of industries, but I'd always been working or rather entering jobs with small businesses or companies that were, at that initial startup phase. And so even though my jobs have always been around logistics and operational aspects and running those departments, the skills that I'd actually developed were working with businesses in that initial growth phase. So it gave me really good insights into the challenges that businesses have, which essentially are exactly the same for all businesses when you strip it right back. Working with a wide range of people, managing teams, all that kind of stuff. When you strip it down to those skills, you suddenly see, okay, well, these skills are actually quite diverse and can actually apply to a lot of different situations.
Yeah,
so the work that I'm doing now is very much in line with that. I consult for businesses from a wide range of topics. It can be anything like HR stuff, general business strategy and growth. Right now I'm working a lot with a marketing team and managing their efforts based in Australia and throughout Asia. So it's interesting when you look at, or you kind of shift your perspective on the things that you've told yourself about, oh, well, I am this and I do that, therefore this is the job for me. But
Right.
if you take away the labels and you look at, well, what are the skills that I actually have? What are the skills that I bring to my workplace?
And where can I apply those?
And then how can I apply those? And what's interesting these days, because it's all digital, right? That's the real, crux of it all, and that's why this can all happen. There are a lot of people who are doing things in their own spare time or as hobbies that they might actually be able to apply in that context as well. And so that's something that, you need to consider. Are you passionate about social media? It doesn't necessarily mean, oh yeah, I love Instagramming a lot, but if you're doing that for friends or family or helping out here and there, that's something you can actually turn into a viable consulting business.
I
these
mean,
days.
I've said this before at work at Customer Bloom. It's like everybody needs a plumber, right? Because everybody has a house.
Sure.
Well, nowadays every business has a website, right? So
Yes.
there's all sorts of like plumbers, handyman, all these types of people that apply to your digital home.
Absolutely.
And that's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger. So like you could literally be today's plumber, but doing it anywhere you want.
I mean, look, and taking that a step further, it's not that everyone it's every business that exists in the
Right.
world, even traditional, has an online presence. And anyone that's starting to develop a business or a business idea of any kind is looking completely to digital. So the amount of opportunity that exists, as you said, it's so diverse, and there are jobs now that exist that never existed before.
Right.
And there are businesses and companies now. Like I was just reading literally today about Domo, which I'd never heard about, and it's like this aggregate data analysis company. They've been really quietly getting test members on, getting like seed funding, and then today they come out and they got this new platform interface. We're worth $2 billion. I'm going to grow it to 50.
And they have a super arrogant CEO, right?
Yes.
I've seen that guy's videos.
Confident.
Yeah, sure. Sounds like he deserves to be arrogant. Or
Well, I mean, but what it keeps reminding me is, and what I'm really fascinated about is, where is this all going to go?
Me too. That's kind of why we started the show. Is like, let's see where this goes. Let's talk to the people who are doing these things and see where it takes us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's all, it's a real curve, and it's hard to tell when you're in it at which point of that curve are we on. And from all the research, it kind of indicates that we might even be at the low end of that hockey stick that then just
Totally.
skyrockets.
I think that we are. Yeah, I think we're so at the beginning of this that it's not even, we can't even fathom where this is going to go.
I agree.
Let me ask you a couple quick questions.
Go for it.
What are the tools that you rely on every day to do what you're doing?
The tools. I've got I created a presentation about this. I had a lot of people asking me. There's like 50,000. The key ones, especially when you're working with teams, for me, Asana is a great one. It's a task management tool. It's one that I prefer. There are other ones that are very famous and quite popular.
We use Basecamp.
Basecamp.
Love Basecamp. No, not Basecamp. I hate Basecamp. I can't believe I just said that. We love Red Booth.
Red Booth. Excellent.
Awesome.
Basecamp. Look, interesting Basecamp. The guys that are kind of the godfathers of this whole movement, 37 Signals.
I know. So they have no excuse to have a product that still looks like it's from the 90s.
It's true. Another very popular one, mainly with like graphic designers and people that are more visual, is Trello.
Yeah.
Similar concepts, I agree. But personal choices, they're all out there. So that's for team management. There's a really good for team like communication. Because if we are talking about remote, generally you're communicating with people around the world, is Slack. That's like your kind of in-house chat program.
We got sucked into that real hard recently.
And look, there's a reason these programs, this software, is famous because there's a lot more people using it and validating it, and it does work. On a personal level, I use a lot of the Google's suite, so obviously Gmail just for general email stuff, but Google Docs,
Drive,
Google Drive.
Do you Drive and Dropbox?
I prefer to drive myself, but I still work with teams that are using Dropbox. Interestingly, Dropbox, up until I didn't know, recently were actually on Amazon servers, and I found that there was a lot of lag around the world depending on where you were in your internet speed. So
you know what's funny? I feel like Box.com of all the cloud storage gets the most press. Yeah. But I've never met anyone who actually uses Box.
No.
It's either Dropbox or Drive.
Yeah. And I think that just knowing Google's strength and power, I think that Docs will continue. I've got a couple of other tools that I use from a productivity perspective. There's a great one called Rescue Time. That one essentially just tracks what you're doing. It sits in the background. I've
seen a lot of those, but I've never used one.
Yeah,
Does it actually help?
Yeah, I did a lot of research. Look, with all of these things, especially productivity tools, it helps to bring your awareness to what you're doing. So, there are more crazy ones where people, if they procrastinate or get distracted, ones that shut down certain sites. But, for a lot of people that are working in the online space, you kind of need access to social media sites because essentially you might be working on them. So that might not necessarily work. And look, another really great one, and there are so many versions of them out there, just an app that incorporates like a Pomodoro technique. This is like
what's that?
It's like a productivity, I guess, philosophy that an Italian guy came up with, where he studied people's efficiencies and their ability to focus, like all this brain mapping stuff. And he found that as humans, we're really good at short bursts of focus time. 25 minutes seems to be the optimal, and then you have a break.
Right.
So these are just little timers that you click on, and it just goes for 25 minutes. There's a little buzzer, bing, whatever you have, and it kind of says, okay, have 5 minutes off. And, actually give yourself that 5 minutes. And it's interesting, again, about the awareness. When you click it on, your brain just goes, okay, I'm going to focus now. And you just smash through your work, and, you find that you can really stay focused and productive.
Yeah, that makes sense. I should probably break up my day more often, because at certain points of the day you just feel so burnt out, and you're like,
yes,
I literally haven't stopped for 2 hours.
And you need to have the breaks. I mean, there's, taking it to a little bit more of a top level perspective. What works really well is if you do blocking of your week. So if you look at your week schedule, and we've kind of been conditioned into this way of planning and programming our weeks and our calendars and schedules by blocking in meetings and other kind of requirements. But what you're essentially doing is you are setting aside time that disrupts your workflow. Suddenly you have to go to a meeting or you have a Skype call and things like that. And what people don't do is actually block out the time to work on a project and focus time. You know, if you're someone that needs to produce content, like, you know, you would block out time. We're filming this once a month. We sit down, we film the channel, we do 10 episodes in one hit.
Working on our own company's website, our own company's marketing materials. It's
so
always at the bottom of the
list, you know, but you schedule that. You
Yeah.
schedule that time and you give it the focus, and it doesn't become this thing that you kind of do in between, you know. And you can apply that to checking your emails and, you know, all types of things. So,
Makes sense.
you know, there's a lot out there. I think the biggest takeout, though, and how this all applies, you know, the different tools that you use and how you schedule your time when you are working remotely, is it's all about creating routines and structure in your life. A big challenge for anyone that travels and you know, is a kind of digital nomad, is that kind of lifestyle isn't necessarily conducive to being very productive if you're constantly on the move and different time zones and all that kind of stuff. So what really helps me particularly, and the reason I use the tools, is it helps me create that routine as quickly as possible. And I know I have something to kind of fall back on. I have these little tools that can help me stay on top of my work, stay effective and efficient, you know, and create that.
It's a good
balance.
point. Like, you know, the cliches like with freedom comes responsibility and stuff like that. It's true. You have to be really stay on top of yourself to make sure you stay productive.
Absolutely. You know, it's a big challenge.
Cool. Well, I don't want to keep you for too long, but where are you off to next?
So the plan is to head further north across the border into the US. We literally came here because we were in Europe, in the south of France, in Toulouse, lovely town, but you know, heading into January, February, not as pleasant as a Mexican winter. So we were kind of looking at the world map going, okay, we need to get out of here. And I was really hanging for some snow, but you know, because of global warming, climate change, or whatever other propaganda out there, the snow wasn't falling in Europe this year. It all seemed to go to Japan. So I was like, oh, it's not going to happen. Let's just get out of here. And looked at the map. We'd always wanted to come to Mexico. It actually came to a toss-up between Mexico and Costa Rica, but Mexico won in the end. And you know, one of the main reasons that we actually came to Sayulita in Mexico is because of Sayulita co-working, because of the co-working space. As most of the people watching, and if you aren't in, you know, nomad yourself yet, you'll soon be kind of addicted to looking for places that have good or stable internet. And co-working places are fantastic for that. So next we're going to ride out, I guess, the winter just north of us.
Are you going to look for snow in the US?
No, we're just going to sit here. I'm just going to leave that till the next season now. I've kind of given up. We're going to keep with the surf theme. Head up. I've got a lot of friends, US and Canada, that felt that Bali was a little bit too far to visit. So we'll do that.
Well, you got to come back, and whenever you make your next move, double back and check out the new space in Vallarta.
I'm really excited.
All right. If you guys are watching on YouTube, subscribe, follow along, and remember, work the web so you can enjoy the surf, whatever your surf may be. We'll see you next time.